The construction crew's hydraulic crane groaned under impossible strain as it tried to lift the 12-foot Virgin Mary statue from Mercy General Hospital's lobby. Tommy McKenna had moved monuments twice this size without breaking a sweat, but this marble figure wasn't budging an inch. What happened next, when tears began flowing from the statue's carved stone eyes, would leave 300 witnesses trembling with awe and force an entire institution to confront the reality that some things are too sacred to move. At 6 a.m. on February 15, 2024, Mercy General Hospital in Boston buzzed with unusual activity. The magnificent Virgin Mary statue, carved from Carrara marble and standing guard in the lobby for 75 years, was scheduled for relocation. Hospital Administrator Richard Cross had convinced the board that the prime real estate could generate more revenue as commercial medical offices. What you're about to witness challenges everything we think we know about the boundaries between the physical and spiritual worlds. This isn't just a story about moving a statue, it's about what happens when divine will confront human ambition. Stay with us for one of the most extraordinary displays of supernatural resistance ever documented. McKenna's crew had arrived with their most powerful equipment, a hydraulic crane rated for 15 tons, steel cables, protective padding, and 30 years of experience moving the unmovable. The statue weighed approximately 3 tons, challenging but routine for professionals of their caliber. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, Chief of Emergency Medicine, paused her morning rounds to watch the operation. Something felt wrong about the entire project. The statue had been the heart of this hospital since its founding, bringing comfort to millions of grieving families. Moving it to the rarely visited chapel seemed like tearing the soul from the building. Sister Catherine Murphy, 82 years old and one of the last nuns serving at Mercy General, sat in her usual corner chair clutching her rosary. She had helped install this statue as a young novice in 1949 and remembered the profound peace that filled the space the moment it was positioned. Today, that same spiritual energy felt turbulent, as if heaven itself was preparing to resist. The first sign of supernatural intervention came at 6:15 a.m. McKenna's crew wrapped steel cables around the statue's base, but the metal began heating up inexplicably. Within minutes, the cables were too hot to touch, forcing the workers to step back in confusion. "Never seen anything like this," muttered Jake Morrison, McKenna's most experienced crew member. "It's like the statue is fighting back." But heated cables were just the beginning. What the Virgin Mary was about to demonstrate would convince even the most skeptical observers that they were witnessing divine intervention of the highest order. At exactly 6:30 a.m., as McKenna positioned the hydraulic crane for a direct lift, the impossible became undeniable. The Virgin Mary's carved marble eyes, which had gazed serenely upon hospital visitors for 3/4 of a century, began to weep genuine tears. Maria Santos, the night custodian who had polished the statue for 15 years, was the first to notice. "Dios mío," she whispered, crossing herself as she watched liquid droplets form at the corners of the Virgin's stone eyes. The tears weren't paint or condensation, they were real, warm, and glowing with their own internal light. Dr. Rodriguez immediately approached to investigate, her medical training demanding empirical observation. She placed her hand beneath one of the falling tears and gasped. The liquid was warm to the touch and seemed to shimmer with pearl-like luminescence that defied scientific explanation. "This is impossible," she murmured, but her eyes confirmed what her rational mind wanted to reject. Carved marble didn't weep. Stone didn't produce liquid. Yet the evidence was flowing down the Virgin's face in steady streams that caught the morning light like liquid diamonds. Richard Cross arrived in the lobby, expecting to find the relocation nearly complete. Instead, he discovered his construction crew standing motionless around their equipment, staring at the weeping statue with expressions of awe and terror. "What's the delay?" Cross demanded, his schedule-driven mind already calculating the cost of every lost minute. "Boss," McKenna replied, his voice shaking, "this statue, it's crying. Real tears. And our equipment won't work. Every time we try to lift it, something goes wrong." The Virgin Mary's tears are just the beginning of the most extraordinary display of divine power ever witnessed in a modern medical facility. What happens next will test the faith of everyone present and challenge the very foundations of institutional authority. The hydraulic crane, which had functioned perfectly during yesterday's test, now refused to engage its lifting mechanism. The steel arms trembled violently whenever they approached the statue, as if encountering an invisible force field that repelled their advance. Sister Catherine rose from her chair with surprising grace, her aged eyes bright with understanding. "She's protecting this place," the elderly nun announced, her voice carrying clearly through the gathering crowd. "She's been the guardian of healing here for 75 years. She won't abandon her post." More hospital staff began gathering in the lobby as word spread about the weeping statue. Nurses finishing night shifts, doctors arriving for morning rounds, maintenance workers, and even patients in wheelchairs, all drawn by reports of something miraculous occurring in their familiar lobby. The tears flowed more freely now, and where they touched the marble floor, witnesses noticed something extraordinary. The drops didn't evaporate or spread like normal liquid. They formed perfect pools of luminous light that seemed to pulse with their own spiritual energy. As the crowd grew larger and the statue's tears flowed more freely, the Virgin Mary was about to demonstrate powers that would leave everyone present forever changed by what they witnessed. The Virgin Mary statue's resistance escalated dramatically as McKenna's crew made increasingly desperate attempts to fulfill their contract. What had begun as equipment malfunctions now became displays of supernatural power that defied every law of physics the witnesses understood. When McKenna brought in his backup crane, a massive 15-ton capacity machine, the metal structure began to bend and warp as it approached the statue. The steel arms, designed to lift small buildings, twisted like soft plastic whenever they came within 3 feet of the Virgin Mary. "This is insane," Jake Morrison shouted, stepping back as sparks flew from the crane's electrical systems. "It's like there's an invisible wall around that statue that nothing can penetrate." Dr. Rodriguez pulled out her smartphone and began recording, her medical instincts recognizing the importance of documenting unprecedented phenomena. The tears flowing from the Virgin's eyes were now creating streams of liquid light that illuminated the entire lobby with supernatural radiance. Richard Cross watched his carefully planned relocation dissolving into chaos. Every piece of equipment his crew deployed either malfunctioned, broke down, or was mysteriously repelled by the statue's presence. The project he had expected to complete in 2 hours was turning into an impossible confrontation between human will and divine power. Mrs. Elizabeth Carter, a 70-year-old cancer patient receiving morning chemotherapy, wheeled herself closer to investigate the commotion. As she approached the statue, one of the Virgin's luminous tears fell directly onto her hand, and witnesses observed an immediate transformation that left medical professionals speechless. The elderly woman's pallor, which had been the gray-green shade of advanced chemotherapy, suddenly bloomed with healthy pink color. Her labored breathing eased, and she sat straighter in her wheelchair than she had in months. "The pain," she whispered in wonder, "it's completely gone." But Mrs. Carter's healing was only the beginning. The Virgin Mary's tears were about to demonstrate healing powers that would revolutionize everything the medical staff thought they knew about the relationship between faith and medicine. Dr. Rodriguez immediately examined Mrs. Carter, her clinical training overriding her amazement at the supernatural events surrounding them. The patient's pulse was stronger, her coloring dramatically improved, and her respiratory function had enhanced significantly, changes that should have taken weeks of treatment, not seconds of contact with miraculous tears. Sister Catherine moved through the growing crowd like a gentle shepherd, her presence bringing calm to confused and frightened observers. "This is why she's here," the elderly nun explained. "This is why she's always been here. She's the mother of the great physician, bringing his healing touch to all who suffer." As news of the weeping statue spread throughout Mercy General Hospital, patients and staff flocked to the lobby to witness what many were calling the greatest display of divine healing in modern medical history. The Virgin Mary's tears continued flowing, each drop carrying properties that amazed the healthcare professionals present. 8-year-old Timothy Walsh, born with a severe heart defect and scheduled for high-risk surgery the following week, broke free from his mother's grip and ran to the statue. Before anyone could stop him, he knelt in the pool of glowing tears and splashed the miraculous liquid on his chest, directly over his heart. His mother, Jennifer Walsh, cried out in alarm, but her fear transformed into amazement as she watched her son's chronically blue-tinged lips turn healthy pink for the first time in his life. Timothy stood up and took a deep breath, something that had always been difficult for him, and smiled with pure joy. "Mommy, I can breathe!" he exclaimed, his voice strong and clear instead of the weak whisper that had characterized his speech since birth. Dr. Rodriguez immediately conducted an impromptu examination of the boy, using her smartphone's flashlight to check his coloring and listening to his heartbeat with a stethoscope borrowed from a nearby crash cart. What she discovered challenged everything she understood about congenital heart defects. "His murmur is gone," she announced in disbelief. "This child has had a severe septal defect since birth, but his heart sounds are completely normal now." The healing miracles occurring at Mercy General are challenging everything the medical community thinks it knows about the limits of human recovery. But the most profound transformation is yet to come, as the statue's divine presence begins to change not just individual patients, but the very soul of the institution itself. More patients began approaching the statue, each one experiencing healing that transcended medical explanation. A construction worker with a severed spinal cord felt sensation return to his paralyzed legs. An elderly woman with advanced Alzheimer's suddenly recognized family members she hadn't known for years. A young mother with terminal liver disease watched her jaundiced skin return to healthy color. Dr. Margaret Thornton, Chief of Staff, arrived in the lobby to find her orderly medical facility transformed into something resembling a pilgrimage site. The evidence of miraculous healing was overwhelming, but her scientific training struggled to process what she was witnessing. "Elena," she called to Dr. Rodriguez, "I need medical documentation of everything that's happening here. If these healings are genuine, they represent the most significant medical phenomena of our lifetime." Sister Catherine knelt before the statue and received what she later described as direct communication from the Virgin Mary herself. Without words, she understood that these healings were meant to demonstrate that faith and medicine weren't opposing forces, but complementary aspects of divine love working through human service. The fragrance of roses and lilies began filling the hospital, reaching even the intensive care units and operating rooms. Patients throughout the facility reported sudden improvements in their conditions, as if the statue's healing influence was extending through the entire building like ripples in a pond. As the healing miracles multiplied and the statue's influence spread throughout the hospital, Richard Cross faced a decision that would determine not just the fate of one piece of art, but the spiritual identity of an entire medical institution. Richard Cross stood in the center of the transformed lobby, watching his ordered world crumble around him as the Virgin Mary statue demonstrated powers that made his business concerns seem petty and irrelevant. Every healing he witnessed challenged his materialistic worldview more profoundly than the last. The construction crew had given up entirely, their equipment either broken or mysteriously repelled by the statue's invisible protective force. McKenna approached Cross with a mixture of fear and wonder in his weathered face. "Mr. Cross," the foreman said quietly, "I've been moving heavy objects for 30 years, but I've never encountered anything like this. That statue doesn't want to be moved, and I don't think any force on earth is going to change that." Dr. Rodriguez approached the administrator with documentation of 7 miraculous healings that had occurred within the past hour. "Richard," she said, using his first name for the first time since he'd been hired, "we have to consider the possibility that this statue serves a purpose here that transcends our understanding." Cross found himself remembering why he had originally been drawn to healthcare administration, not for profit margins and efficiency reports, but because he wanted to be part of an institution that made people's lives better. Somewhere along the way, he had lost sight of that mission in pursuit of financial success. Maria Santos, the night custodian whose family had been coming to this hospital for 3 generations, approached Cross with quiet dignity. "Mr. Cross," she said in accented but clear English, "my grandmother held my mother's hand in front of the statue when she was dying. My mother brought me here when I was sick. I brought my children here. This statue, she's family. She belongs here." As Cross grappled with the most important decision of his career, the Virgin Mary was about to deliver a message that would transform his understanding of what it truly means to serve others. The administrator found himself drawn to kneel before the weeping statue, despite his lifelong skepticism about religious matters. As he approached, the Virgin's tears seemed to fall more freely, and he felt a warmth that had nothing to do with physical temperature. It was the warmth of unconditional love that he hadn't experienced since childhood. In that moment of contact with divine presence, Cross experienced what he later described as a complete reordering of his priorities. He saw clearly that hospitals weren't just businesses designed to generate profit. They were sacred spaces where the divine work of healing took place through human hands guided by divine love. The Virgin Mary's message to him was clear: efficiency and profit weren't evil in themselves, but when they became more important than compassion and service to those who suffered, they corrupted the very mission they were meant to support. Richard Cross now faces the decision that will define not just his career, but his soul. Will he continue with the relocation that could destroy something sacred, or will he acknowledge that some things are more valuable than money? His choice will determine the future of everyone who seeks healing at Mercy General. Young Timothy Walsh, his heart miraculously healed, approached Cross with the fearless honesty that only children possess. "Mr. Cross," the 8-year-old said, "she fixed my broken heart. She's been fixing hearts here for a really long time. You can't move her now." The boy's words cut through Cross's remaining resistance like a sword of truth. He looked around at the faces surrounding him, patients who had been healed, families filled with hope, medical staff witnessing something that restored their faith in the possibility of miracle, and realized that he was being offered a choice between serving Mammon and serving something infinitely more valuable. As the afternoon light streamed through the hospital's windows, illuminating the Virgin Mary statue's tear-streaked face with golden radiance, Richard Cross made the decision that would transform not only his own life but the destiny of Mercy General Hospital. "The relocation is cancelled," he announced to the assembled crowd, his voice carrying newfound authority that came not from corporate power but from moral conviction. "The Virgin Mary statue will remain in the lobby of Mercy General Hospital, where she has served as a source of comfort and healing for 75 years. The crowd erupted in tears of joy and spontaneous applause, but Cross raised his hand to continue with an even more significant announcement. "Furthermore, we're establishing the Mercy General Institute for Integrative Healing, where medical science and spiritual care will work together to treat the whole person, body, mind, and spirit." Dr. Rodriguez felt her heart soar as she heard words that validated everything she had always believed about true healing. As chief of emergency medicine, she had seen too many patients recover from physical ailments only to remain broken in spirit, and too many others whose spiritual strength had carried them through impossible medical challenges. Sister Catherine's elderly eyes filled with tears of gratitude as she realized that her decades of faithful service were being honored and extended into a new generation. The integration of spiritual care with medical treatment had been her dream since becoming a nun 70 years earlier. But the Virgin Mary's work at Mercy General was far from complete. As the statue's tears began to slow, she delivered one final message that would guide the hospital's mission for generations to come. The miraculous tears gradually ceased flowing, but the pool of luminous liquid at the statue's base continued to glow with supernatural radiance. Cross approached it reverently and carefully collected some of the miraculous substance in a crystal container, understanding that it would serve as a permanent reminder of this transformative day. Dr. Thornton, initially skeptical of the supernatural events, found herself volunteering to head the new institute's research division. The documented healings she had witnessed challenged her to expand her understanding of what medicine could accomplish when it acknowledged the spiritual dimensions of human existence. Maria Santos was asked to serve as the institute's community liaison, her natural compassion and deep understanding of the hospital's spiritual heritage making her invaluable in creating an environment where healing of body and soul could flourish together. The construction crew packed up their equipment, but McKenna approached Cross before leaving. "Sir," the foreman said with genuine respect, "I've never experienced anything like what happened here today. If you ever need any work done around that statue, maintenance, repairs, anything, you call me. No charge. Some things are too sacred to put a price on." The transformation at Mercy General Hospital was just beginning. What happened in the months that followed would prove that when institutions align themselves with divine purpose, miracles become not rare exceptions, but daily expressions of love in action. 6 months after the Virgin Mary statue refused to be moved from Mercy General Hospital, the institution had become a beacon of hope that attracted patients, medical professionals, and pilgrims from around the world. The integration of spiritual care with cutting-edge medical treatment created an environment where healing flourished in ways that amazed even the most experienced healthcare workers. Dr. Rodriguez, now director of the Institute for Integrative Healing, had developed protocols that honored both scientific rigor and spiritual reality. Her research into the healing properties of the Virgin's tears led to breakthroughs in understanding how prayer, meditation, and spiritual support could enhance the body's natural healing processes. The preserved tears, kept in their crystal reliquary, continued to exhibit properties that defied scientific explanation but provided genuine healing for those who approached with faith. Chemical analysis revealed a substance unlike anything in medical literature, organic in nature but exhibiting characteristics that seemed to transcend physical law. Timothy Walsh, now 9 years old and completely healthy, had become the unofficial mascot of the Children's Cardiac Unit. His story of miraculous healing provided hope for countless families facing similar medical challenges, and his joyful presence brought light to the darkest corners of the hospital. Sister Catherine, despite her advanced age, threw herself into training a new generation of spiritual care providers. Her program attracted volunteers from every religious tradition, creating an interfaith team that could minister to patients and families regardless of their specific beliefs. But the most profound transformation was in the hospital's culture itself, as the Virgin Mary's presence continued to inspire acts of compassion and healing that went far beyond what any medical textbook could teach. Richard Cross discovered that operating a hospital with spiritual principles didn't decrease efficiency or profitability, it enhanced them dramatically. Patients recovered faster when their spiritual needs were addressed alongside their physical symptoms. Families expressed higher satisfaction with care that treated their loved ones as whole human beings rather than collections of symptoms. Medical staff found deeper meaning in their work when they understood themselves as instruments of divine healing rather than just highly trained technicians. Burnout rates plummeted, job satisfaction soared, and the hospital attracted the most talented and compassionate healthcare workers in the region. Maria Santos coordinated the growing number of pilgrims who came seeking healing at the statue, ensuring that the miraculous events didn't interfere with normal patient care while making sure that everyone who approached with sincere faith had the opportunity to experience the Virgin's healing presence. 2 years after the Virgin Mary statue demonstrated that some things are too sacred to be moved for mere convenience, Mercy General Hospital stood as living proof that faith and science could work together to accomplish healing that neither could achieve alone. The statue itself remained in its place of honor in the lobby, where it continued to bring comfort to thousands of visitors each month. While it never again wept visible tears, those who approached with sincere hearts consistently reported feelings of peace, hope, and spiritual renewal that sustained them through their most difficult challenges. Dr. Rodriguez's groundbreaking research had been published in major medical journals, inspiring healthcare institutions worldwide to reconsider the relationship between spiritual care and physical healing. Her work proved that addressing patients' spiritual needs wasn't just compassionate, it was medically effective. The Virgin Mary's refusal to be moved had taught everyone at Mercy General a profound lesson about the nature of true value. Some things, love, compassion, faith, hope, cannot be measured in dollars or relocated for convenience. They exist in specific places and relationships, and attempting to move them for material gain destroys the very thing that makes them precious. Richard Cross, now recognized as a pioneer in faith-integrated healthcare administration, often reflected on the morning he had planned to relocate what he saw as an inconveniently placed piece of art. "I thought I was making room for more profitable ventures," he would tell visitors, but the Virgin Mary was protecting something far more valuable than money. She was protecting the soul of healing itself. The crystal reliquary containing the Virgin's tears remained in the lobby shrine, its contents continuing to glow with supernatural light that served as a constant reminder that the sacred can manifest in the most unexpected ways. Scientists might never fully explain the miraculous substance, but thousands of patients had experienced its healing power firsthand. Timothy Walsh, now 11 years old and pursuing his dream of becoming a pediatric cardiologist, embodied the hope that the statue represented. His completely healed heart pumped strongly as he visited other sick children, sharing his story and proving that miracles weren't just ancient history, they were present realities for those who believed. Sister Catherine, now 84 but still serving with tireless devotion, had seen her life's work vindicated and expanded beyond her wildest dreams. The integration of spiritual care with medical treatment had become the standard at Mercy General, proving that serving God and serving excellence were not just compatible, they were inseparable. Maria Santos, promoted to Director of Patient Spiritual Services, continued to welcome visitors from around the world who came seeking the healing that only faith could provide. Her gentle presence and deep wisdom helped create an atmosphere where the sacred and the scientific worked together in perfect harmony. The Virgin Mary statue stood serenely in the lobby, her marble features peaceful and still. But everyone who had witnessed her tears knew that beneath the carved stone surface lived a mother's heart that would always protect what was sacred, heal what was broken, and remind humanity that some things are too precious to be moved by anything less than divine will. The miracle at Mercy General Hospital proves that when we protect what is sacred, the sacred protects us in return. The Virgin Mary's tears continue to flow in the compassionate hearts of all who serve others with love, whether in hospitals, homes, or any place where healing is needed. What sacred presence in your own life deserves protection from the forces that would relocate it for convenience or profit? Share your thoughts about the relationship between faith and healing in the comments below, and subscribe for more extraordinary stories of divine intervention that transform institutions and inspire hope in our modern world.